Proverbs chapter 31. We are going to be in the book. We're not going to leave the book of Proverbs this morning, but Proverbs chapter 31, it's a very well-known passage of Scripture, preached a lot on Mother's Day. You read about the virtuous woman, and we'll talk about her a little bit. But what I want to talk about, though, this morning, kind of in honor of Mother's Day, I want to talk about a mother's influence. A mother's influence. I think all of us, hopefully, your mom had a big influence in your life. You allowed her to influence you. And even if your mother is gone, she might have been gone a long time, there's probably still something I can imagine where she still has influence. You wouldn't want to do things that would have been a disappointment to your mom and let down your mom. And mothers historically have always been very powerful influences on their children. It's the way it should be. It's the way God wants it. But sadly today, we see less and less influence from parents and even from the mother. For a long time, we saw the father's influence kind of leaving, but the mom was always kind of there. But even now today, a mother's influence is very non-existent. And much of what we see in the Bible about a mother's role in her children's life, what she is supposed to do, some of it might sound kind of foreign. And it's like many mothers have fallen for the world's teaching as far as what their role is and how they are supposed to influence. And I'm here today to tell you that mothers are a powerful influence, or they should be a powerful influence. And you need to try to fulfill that role in your children's life and be in that right kind of influence. But let's start reading in Proverbs chapter 31. This is the words, it says, the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy which his mother taught him. And we know that Proverbs, it was written by Solomon, and we believe that the name Lemuel, because there was no King Lemuel that we read about in the Bible, but we believe it was an affectionate term that was used by his mother. It was for Solomon. And we know that Solomon's mother was Bathsheba. And I believe that's interesting because Bathsheba, we know, wasn't always a godly woman. That the woman who wrote about a virtuous woman was not always a virtuous woman. We see the sin that she committed against her husband, Uriah. She committed adultery with David. And as a result, they ended up losing the child. But at some point, some things changed. And, it doesn't matter if you had a bad past and you've made some mistakes. If you, give your life to God, He can change you and He can use you. And you can still become a virtuous woman. You can be a good mother. And so it says the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. Okay? And, as Baptists, we don't have, women preachers. But at the same time, prophecy and preaching are many times the same thing. And you know what? Moms can preach at their kids all that they want. And there is nothing wrong with that. And my wife, I've heard her preach many great sermons in our house to the children. And, and I've been even in the background amening a few times, and she's really letting them have it. And so Bathsheba here, she's preaching to her son Solomon. This is a sermon that his mother preached to him quite often. And it says, what my son, what the son of my womb, and what the son of my vows, give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. Right away, she knows that her son is eventually going to be the king. And we see here that she's trying to warn him about some things. Don't give your strength to women. You know what? Boys, they get themselves in trouble with girls all the time, don't they? Boys, they get themselves in trouble, not always just with girls, but even just sometimes there are other friends that they have. And you know what? Sadly, many parents have fallen for this idea that, you're not supposed to get involved in who your kids are friends with. You're not supposed to get involved with who your son, wants to marry or who his girlfriend is. And I'm here today to tell you that no, moms are allowed to influence in that area. Moms are allowed to make some rules, to make some laws. We're going to see that here in a little bit. And the first thing she does is she warns him about giving his strength unto women, that which destroyeth kings. A mother that's been around for any length of time and has any experience knows the trouble that men can get in when it comes to women. She knows firsthand. She was part of what got David in trouble, wasn't she? And obviously she realizes there was a mistake there, and she is trying to warn her son about that very thing. And you know what, moms? There is nothing wrong with you looking at your son's friends, looking at your son's girlfriend maybe, and saying, you know what? she's bad news. You know what? They're bad news. You need to stay away from them. There's nothing wrong with that. You absolutely should do that. Let me tell you something. Moms know girls better than boys. Know girls, don't they? And there's a thing or two that your son could learn. And we'll see some more verses on that in a little bit. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But you've been around. You've seen things. You've got some experience. You know kids. You know teenagers. Even teenage boys. And moms, you have every right to tell your son, you cannot be friends with that boy. You cannot go over to his house. He cannot come over to this house. He is bad influence. He will drag you down. And let me tell you, that is what a mother has always done. They are looking out for their kids. They're going to be paying attention. And so a mother, she's concerned about her son's friends. Proverbs 1:8 says, "My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother." Y'all see that? The law of thy mother. Mothers are allowed to make rules for their kids. And let me tell you, the rules in your house, in God's eyes, are law for your children. That is law in the eyes of God. What are they commanded to do in Ephesians 6:1? Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Your word is law. But yet, most parents today, they are just fine with going along with what the world has decided. Hey, the world says it's okay for kids to start dating in their early teen years. I'm here today to tell you that's as foolish as all get out. And you know what? In your house, mothers, fathers, you can declare, hey, no dating until you're an adult. Oh, we can't do that. Why not? Why not? It's your house. Your house, they're your children. It is your law. I don't care what NBC says. Your children do not belong to the community. They do not belong to the community. They are your children, and you are allowed to make laws for them. And say things like, no dating until you're an adult. No dating a girl or a boy unless they are a Christian. You're allowed to do that. There is nothing wrong with that. But parents today, what are you going to do? This is what kids are doing these days. Well, yeah, this is what kids are doing these days, but not my kids. In my house, it's law. You want to know why the government's taken over the way they are? It's because of that verse. It's not in the Bible. It's found in Second Opinions somewhere. He who payeth the bills maketh the rules. And as we allow have the government take over all these responsibilities, they're going to start making the rules, but their rules stink, don't they? And you know what? You're paying the bills in your house. You're the one that brought those children into the world. And don't fall for this idea that you can't make your own rules, that you have to do what everybody else is doing, that you have to let your kids wear what all the other kids are wearing, that you have to let your kids say all the things that other kids are saying. You are allowed to have laws in your house. And even sometimes in church, the laws they're going to be different from home to home, aren't they? And your kids, they're going to throw that line at you all the time. Mom and Dad, why can't we do this? So-and-so's family does this. Well, guess what? That's a different family. They have different laws. And just like other countries have different laws, different families can have different laws. And what you say in your house, moms and dads, is law to your children. And don't fall for that idea that it's not. You are allowed to tell your kids what to do. And so, my son, hear the instruction of thy father, forsake not the law of thy mother. You'll see that more than once in Proverbs. We're talking about the law of the mother. So, and then let's look at verse 4 of chapter 31. It says, "It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted." Boy, I wish our leaders and politicians wouldn't drink. I'm getting tired of hearing about these beer summits that President Obama has. When you're making judgment and trying to figure out what to do, don't go drinking. All right? Man, you shouldn't do it anyway, but especially when you're trying to decide law and trying to decide policy, you're going to go and do something that everyone knows impairs your judgment? What in the world? And she's saying, hey, it's not for kings to do that. You know who's supposed to drink? You know who the bottle is for? You know who alcohol is for? Give strong drink to him that is ready to perish. And wine unto those that be of heavy hearts, let him drink and forget his poverty and remember his misery no more. Hey, if someone's dying, if someone's if they're suffering and there is no hope for them, back then that was the best painkiller I guess they had. Hey, let's get them drunk and they'll forget that they're suffering. They're going to forget that they're dying. Nowadays we've got things that work a little better. We've got different painkillers that if you're dying, you can take those and God's not going to be mad at you. But when you're healthy, you shouldn't be taking painkillers. You shouldn't be doing drugs. Okay? And especially if you're a king and she's saying, hey, this isn't for you. Hey, you should be above that. And in our world today, there are many things that are legal. Okay? It is legal to drink. It is legal to smoke. It is, it's getting legal in a lot of places. Do a lot of drugs too, isn't it? But you know what? In my house, it's illegal. It is illegal for alcohol to be in my house. Prohibition has been going on in my house since we got married 15 years ago. I grew up in a house with prohibition. And you know what? We never had gangsters and gunfights and more crime as a result of that. I think we had less problem because of that. We've had prohibition, and we will continue to have prohibition. On my house, on my 3 acres of land that I own, there is no alcohol allowed, strict prohibition. And you're allowed to come to my house, but man, you bring alcohol in my house, you're out. You're gone. We will deport you. To off the property because your house, your law. Okay, understand that. And you are allowed to make rules like that. Doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. It doesn't matter what the government says. You know it's bad. You know it will hurt. You know it will cause problems. And therefore, you declare, hey, this isn't for us. Yeah, but Mom, Dad, everybody else in America is doing it. All the other parents let their kids do it. No, this is not for us. Okay? Hey, the Bible tells, we're Christians, aren't we? We're children of God. We see in the Bible that because of Christ that we are priests. We are kings. We see that in the book of Revelation. And it's not for us to do that type of thing. The world gets caught up in that stuff. The world gets caught up in the drugs and the alcohol and the painkillers and all that kind of foolishness. But you know what? It's not for us to do that type of thing. And you need to teach your kids that, hey, you're better than that. You need to teach them a mother's concern about her children's health and good judgment. That's parents want their kids to be healthy. One of the worst things that a parent fears and one of the worst things a parent can face is outliving one of their children. Okay? And that is, some have in here have faced that, and I can't even imagine what that's like. And all parents want their kids to be healthy, don't they? You want them to live longer than you. You want them to live a long life. You want them to be healthy. You want them to be happy. And when you know there's things that could hurt that, a parent's going to try to influence their kids away from that. And that is completely appropriate. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 1. The Proverbs of Solomon. A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish son is the heaviness of his mother. Okay, these kids that want to say, it's my own life. I can do what I want to do. Well, first of all, you did not give yourself life, did you? Your mother and father, it was a result of them that you came into this world. Your mom carried you for 9 months in her womb in a country where she could have butchered you before you were born. She could have killed you dead and been celebrated by many people in this country. It would have been completely legal for her to do that, but she did not do that. She went through the agony of birth to bring you into this world, and you think that just because you're you and because you're an American that you can just do whatever you want and you can be a fool. You can go and you can destroy yourself physically with the drugs and alcohol. You can go and you can mess your body up. You can go pierce your body up wherever you want and tattoo yourself up and make yourself look like a complete freak show, and your mom's not allowed to say anything about it. Listen, any mom's going to be, they're going to care about that. They're going to see them doing things that could hurt their health. And they are going to try to stop them. And it's funny too, because our country is so messed up. We have, through media and things, commercials, they're trying to encourage parents to try to help their kids make better choices when it comes to eating. Parents, you need to make sure you keep your kids from eating the donuts and get them eating celery sticks and carrots instead of all this junk food. But then after they turn, 18, 19, 21, don't you try to stop them from drinking alcohol. I mean, think about it. Well, you can go watch TV today, and you can watch one commercial where they're trying to promote healthy eating, and then you can watch a beer commercial right after that. What in the world? Okay? And it's all about the money, isn't it? We know it's all about the money. And so parents, just stop doing whatever, television, the news media says. Hey, go ahead and make good judgments. And because when your children make bad choices, it weighs on the parents. It weighs on the mother. You do yourself service when you make your mom happy. You do. Because what makes your mom happy? Happy kids. They want their kids to be happy. They want their kids to be healthy. Proverbs 15:20, a wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish man despiseth his mother. Y'all see that? I mean, most people would, they'd never go and slap their mom or something like that. But you know what? There's not a mom out there she would rather be slapped by her son than to see her son suffer, to see her son go to prison, to see her son die because they're foolish. And let me tell you, anybody that would slap his mom is a scumbag, but you know what? You're a whole lot worse to go and hurt yourself in a destructive way, because that is going to just tear your mom's heart out. And so don't do that. Proverbs 23:24, the father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him. Thy father and thy mother shall be glad, and she that bare thee shall rejoice. The best thing you can do for your mother is be happy, is do right, be successful. A mother is concerned about her child's health, their judgment, and when you make good choices, when you do the right thing, it brings them joy. It will give them comfort. It will give them peace. They don't have to lay awake nights worrying about you. So the best thing you can do for your mother is just be happy, be successful, and listen to her, because the things that many children think will make them happy, like the partying and the girls and all that stuff, that moms are smart enough to know that's going to make them miserable. And you know what? You be wise to trust them. But look at verse 8 of Proverbs 31. It says, open thy mouth for the dumb, in the cause of all such as are appointed to destruction. Open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. All moms want their children to be kind and fair. Okay? No mom's impressed with a child that's a bully, with one that hurts other people, that's unfair. And here we see she wants to be kind and fair, especially for him. He's going to be a king. Hey, I want you to do right. We want you to judge righteously. Proverbs 29:15 says, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. Y'all see that? The rod. Oh, we're not supposed to talk about the rod today, No, we're going to talk about the rod. The rod and reproof. It gives wisdom. How does that give wisdom? How does spanking, teach your kids to be fair? They need to. That is I don't know what it is about spanking. It is a wonderful teaching tool. My parents, they believe very strongly in the Board of Education, being applied to the seat of knowledge. And I experienced that many times in my life. And it gives wisdom. It teaches, hey, there's consequences for bad behavior. Hey, when you do wrong, you're supposed to suffer. Listen, when you get older, okay, when you become an adult, let's just be honest, the consequences for wrong are greater, aren't they? Okay? If your child's cheating in school, okay, when they get home, they ought to get a good old-fashioned spanking for it. Okay? Because, what are the results of cheating in school? Well, you'll probably get an F on your grade. That's pretty bad. But what about if they cheat on the job when they're an adult? They're going to get fired. Now, that's a whole lot worse. They're going to get fired from their job. That's how they're making a living. Maybe they've got a wife and kids that they're supposed to be taking care of, and now they can't do it. I don't know about you. That would be painful. That would be hard. I would rather... I had some spankings when I was a kid that I just thought I was going to die. I thought the pain was just unbearable. But you know what? I will take the worst spanking that I've ever got over losing a job. That's a whole lot worse. Parents, oh, we can't do that. We can't cause that kind of pain in our children. Okay, don't cause that kind of pain in your children. And guess what? They're going to suffer a whole lot worse when they're older. Oh, well, when they're fighting, when they hurt somebody, I can't spank them. That's just too cruel. Okay, don't. But then one of these days, when they're beating up somebody, the police are going to show up. And they're probably going to tase them. Or maybe shoot them. I don't know about you, I'd rather get spanked. And then those police are going to take them, they're going to throw them in jail. I don't know about you, I would rather get grounded and be stuck in my house than thrown in the pokey. Okay? But yet, oh, well, we can't do that. That's cruel. That's mean. You're a bad parent. No, you're a bad parent if you don't do those things. That's what the Bible says. The Bible says, he that spareth his rod hateth his son. Okay? In other words, what you are doing to him is hurting him by not punishing him. And so don't fall for what the world teaches. And every mother wants their children to be kind. They want them to be fair. And one of the ways young kids learn, especially boys, okay, is through spanking. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction driveth it far from him. Okay? They're just naturally foolish. We're born that way, but man, there is just something about the nerves in the behind that when they are activated, it sends a message to the brain, I better change my behavior. Hey, this is bad behavior. Hey, this isn't worth it. And it can solve a lot of problems. Thank the Lord. I've never been thrown in jail, but I've been spanked many times. many times. And I think that's a big part of it. And so, don't fall for the world's teaching on that. And moms, you're allowed to do that. And when I was growing up too, my mom was very small. I was taller than my mom, at a pretty young age. But at the same time, my mom's spankings hurt worse than my dad's many times. Because, my dad was a lot bigger than me. I think he thought he was going to hurt me too bad, where my mom thought she wasn't going to hurt me bad enough. And you don't have to be real strong when you got a paddle like that, to cause a lot of pain. And so it's like, the mom, she'd give it all she's got, and her dad would hold back. And it was sometimes I preferred getting spanked by dad over mom. But moms, do it. You're allowed to do it. Okay? Oh, well, what about the law? And man, I hate stealing other people's stories, but I was like with Brother Menez, how his kids learned, somebody taught them that, hey, your parents spank you, you call the police, you call the authorities, and you tell them. And I love what he told him. His kids threatened him one time, and he said, fine, go ahead and call, but guess what? You're not going to get any more birthday presents from us anymore. They're going to come and they're going to take you to live with another family and all that. And they're like, no, I don't want to. They change their mind. I don't want to call them. And that's it. Go ahead. They're going to be a whole lot worse off if they do that. Teach them those things. Teach them those things. I took my kids to the detention home, the jail for kids. We'd go there every week, and I told them, this is jail for kids. These kids come from homes where their mom and dads never spanked them. Their moms and dads let them do whatever they want, and as a result, they end up getting in trouble. And so now these people have to punish them, and they do it by locking them up in rooms all by themselves, and they don't get to go home alone. Some of these kids are in here on their birthday. I remember my kids, man, their eyes would be real big. And I remember we took a school field trip there one time, and the kids all got to see it, and man, it freaked them out good. It freaked them out real good. That's the alternative to spanking. And yet people want to say that spanking is child abuse. No, not spanking is child abuse. No, you know what child abuse is? Drugging your kids up when they have behavioral issues. Paddling works way better than riddling, folks. And I'm telling you, you don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. So, and let me tell you, almost all those kids in detention home, they were all on all kinds of those behavioral drugs. There was places, I visited a place out by Elgin where they pretty much send kids with behavioral issues to go, and they pretty much test out what medications work best on them, what will keep them calm. And the side effects of these medications are absolutely horrible. It is terrible what it does, how it dumbs these kids down. Some of these drugs have literally given boys female body parts, and it's terrible what it does. You cannot abuse a kid with a spanking on the behind more than some of these drugs can. Do not fall for the world's teaching. And Mom, you're allowed to influence in that area. And I would encourage you to go out and you can't buy paddles in stores anymore. My parents bought one in a store one time from the out in the redwoods. We were out in the redwoods in California, and they had one and it said on an attitude adjuster. They bought it and they used it, and so and it adjusted my attitude. But anyway, so verse 10, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Here's where we get to the virtuous woman part. And this is a very well-known passage of Scripture. This is Solomon's mother basically trying to tell him the kind of woman to look for. Now, we know that Solomon did not follow his mother's advice, did he? Sadly, Solomon did not follow his mother's advice. Solomon loved many strange women. He did not have the virtuous woman. But at the same time, in the Proverbs, he shared what his mother shared with him. Thank God we have it. We don't have to do like Solomon. We can actually listen to what his mother taught him. I think he put that in there too, probably wishing many times he had listened to his mother. And there are many men out there today that are, have been joined in holy matrimony to a woman that they're wishing, I'd listened to my mother. I wish I'd done what she told me to do. But who can find a virtuous woman? Her price is far above rubies. Mothers, you have to help your sons in this area of finding a wife. You have great value to this. Proverbs 19:26 says, he that wasteth his father and chaseth away his mother is a son that causeth shame and bringeth reproach. The world will teach you, your children, you don't have to listen to your parents in this area. Let me tell you, your child does. If they chase you away, they're going to end up causing you shame. They're going to end up bringing heartache to their own life and to your life. I mean, go chase them down. How do you remember that it was all over the news last year when there were those protests? I think it was in Ferguson or one of the places. And they got on video some mom out there just beating down her son. I mean, she's just smacking him. And people wanted to give her a Mom of the Year award and all this stuff. And I was like, well, she wasn't doing too good. Her son was out there. But hey, at least she finally decided to do something. And she's smacking her kid around. And I was like, all right, that's what a mom's supposed to do. And he was trying to get away, but she was giving him what for. But listen, a mom, you said you're going to have to do this. They might try to chase you away. But you know what? Man, run them down. Run them down. Go after them. And so look at what she says about this virtuous woman. Okay, first in verse 11 she says, the heart of her husband does safely trust in her, so that he shall not have no need of spoil. Basically, if you're married to a virtuous woman, it's going to be easier for him to do the right thing, to be just, said he'll have no need of spoil. Many times when people would go and they would conquer a place, they would spoil them. They would take everything they had, and it wasn't always a just thing. It wasn't always something that they were supposed to do. This husband didn't have, that's a husband that's married to a virtuous woman. He doesn't feel like he's got to go out and take from someone that he shouldn't. He doesn't have to go out and rob a bank. Let me tell you, there's some women out there that, man, they put a lot of pressure on their husbands to bring home some extra bacon, and they'll even encourage him to go do something that he shouldn't do, to go hold up somebody and end up getting him in trouble. But a virtuous woman's not going to do that. He can trust in his wife. He's not going to be tempted to do the wrong thing. Verse 12, she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She's going to be a blessing to him. This good that she's doing, this is going to make my son happy. That's what a mom wants. She wants a woman for her son that is going to make him happy, that's going to bring blessings instead of evil. We've all seen those whose lives are just miserable, that their life is a wreck. Many of them turn to the drugs and alcohol and things because they are in a marriage that's just making them miserable, and no mom wants that. And so she's going to try to influence them. In verse 13, it says, she seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth the field, and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. So we see here that she's making her husband look good. A virtuous woman is one that means she's a hard worker. I mean, look at what this woman does. Look at what the virtuous woman does. You know, the world today is trying to teach that moms that are stay-at-home moms, that don't have a career, that are just, wives and mothers, that there's something wrong with them. But let me tell you, there's nobody that works harder than a stay-at-home mom. Especially when they're homeschooling their kids. I mean, you ought to see what my wife has to put up with and what she deals with and what she is able to do. I mean, I'm telling you, there is nobody that works harder than my wife. And I believe she's a virtuous woman. And I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, I've known there's plenty of ladies out there that are working jobs that have careers, and they don't work half as hard. Not 1/4 as hard as someone who is raising children and that's a good wife. And it's an amazing thing. But this virtuous woman she's talking about, one of the things that she's pointing out is how this benefits her husband. Man, when it says in verse 23, her husband is known in the gates. What that means, many times, that's where the judges sit. That's where the leaders were, and they would, judge the people. They were the leaders. Those who sat in the gates were often the leaders of the cities. And a man that has a good wife, a man who is married to a virtuous woman, it is going to, and who has, if that virtuous woman is helping raise up good children, people are going to look at that man and they're going to have more respect for him. You all will have more respect hearing my preaching if I've got a family that's got their act together. But you know what? I can preach the exact same thing, but if I'm not married to a virtuous woman, my kids are going to have a tough time being well behaved. And the truth is, there have been, and I think you've all figured it out too. Part of what's made me look good around here is my wife. You've all got to know us well enough. Y'all know she deserves a great deal of the credit for what goes on in our family, with our children, in this church. And I know I couldn't do it without her. If I had a wife that was just nagging me all the time and making me miserable, if she was causing trouble, out gossiping and getting herself in trouble, it'd be hard to be a pastor. I'm thankful that people aren't seeing my wife's name in the newspaper all the time in the criminal reports. Nobody's going to want to go to that church. Nobody's going to want to listen to that pastor. And I can be just as genuine, I can be just as biblical in my preaching, but no one is going to want to listen to me. I am not going to have an influence. I am not going to be able to be the kind of leader that I need to be if I'm not married to a virtuous woman. And we see Solomon, that she knew that he was going to be the king someday, and he needed to have that virtuous woman, that it would help him, it would make a difference. And we know that as a result of Solomon's sin, his loving many strange women, the kingdom ended up getting divided. It didn't get divided in his time, but in his son's time it ended up being divided. But it was because of what Solomon had done. It was because Solomon did not follow his mother's advice. And this virtuous woman that we all know about and read about, this is what his mother is telling her son about. This is what you need. This is what you need to look for. A woman that's ultimately going to make you look good. Look at verse 21 and verse 22. It says, she is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Okay? She's saying here, a virtuous woman is going to take good care of you. At your house, it's going to be, y'all are going to be warm because she knows how to make clothes. She's going to make nice clothes. She's going to, help your life be better. She's going to take good care of you. And I don't know why she didn't include in here too that, you're going to eat good food too. Because, I tell you, it's a blessing when you have a wife that can cook, isn't it? That you're well taken care of when it comes to eating. You're not living a life eating nothing but TV dinners and microwave meals and McDonald's. Hey, that's not even good. Not only does that not taste good, and is that not enjoyable, it's bad for your health too, isn't it? And you get a virtuous woman, you get a woman that knows how to cook, then you're going to be healthier too and happier. And I mean, have you ever had those meals before where you're eating it and just, there's been times I've been hungry and I needed something quick, I needed something cheap, and I went to McDonald's, and it's like, I don't even want to pay him for this food because it's not very good. And it's just no fun. But boy, there's just something about that home-cooked meal. You just can't beat it. Whenever we go away on vacation and stuff, I get so sick of that fast food. And I love a home-cooked meal, and I feel sorry for the people whose whole lives are fast food. Don't they wish they could have gotten a virtuous woman that knew how to cook? And I'm telling you, a virtuous woman, she'll take good care of the husband, take good care of her children. She's not going to cause them trouble. Verse 24, she maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Her strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. We see in the New Testament that when a woman becomes idle, so that often they learn to be idle, wanderers, tattlers, busybodies in other men's matters. And man, I've known some husbands that have had to deal with a lot of problems because their wives were so busy doing nothing, causing trouble, going around gossiping, stirring things up, and then they got to deal with problems as a result of it. No fun. No fun at all. But a virtuous woman, she's not going to do that. A virtuous woman is going to have happy children. Verse 28, her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Notice this once again. This is a mother talking to her son. She wants her son to get that virtuous woman because her husband is going to praise her. Okay? He's going to be happy. She wants her son to be happy. And what grandma doesn't want her grandkids to be happy? Her children will rise up and call her blessed. That's what they want. And so, moms, your motives are genuine. You want your kids to be happy. So you're going to try to influence their decisions. You're going to try to influence who they marry. You want your grandkids to be happy. It is only natural for you to want your children and your grandchildren to be happy. And therefore, like Bathsheba did, you are allowed to influence in that area, and you have influence. And you need to use that. Take advantage of it. It is for their benefit. Your happiness is to their benefit because you are happy when they're happy. Okay? And so you're not being selfish. In fact, if you are being selfish, it's to their benefit. Because your happiness, or their happiness, is what brings your happiness. So don't be ashamed. Don't shy away from this. A mother, she's more interested in the girl's character than she is her looks. Okay? What do guys look for when it comes to a woman? Okay, especially young guys. What's the first thing? Oh, she's pretty. That's the first thing they notice. Sadly, many times, that's a priority. What does she look like? But verse 29 says, many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Except beauty, it's vain, it's deceitful. Bathsheba, she was a very beautiful woman, wasn't she? That was kind of what got David in trouble. David just saw what she looked like. Okay, but the truth is, she understands that it's deceitful. Hey, just because they're pretty doesn't mean they're good. Just because they're pretty doesn't mean they're going to make you happy. And just because she's pretty now doesn't mean she's going to be 10, 20 years from now. And sadly, with many people, it's all about the looks. And you know what? Moms, they've been around long enough. They've seen through that. They know that is not going to bring long-term happiness in her child's life. And so Proverbs 23:22 says, hearken unto thy father that begat thee, and despise not thy mother when she is old. So, when can mom stop being an influence? After I'm 18? No, despise not thy mother when she is old. You know what? I know this is real obvious, but your parents are always going to be older than you. Therefore, they will always be farther down the road than you will be, and they will always have something to contribute. Even when you are an adult, you still should pay attention, listen to what your parents have to say. Don't despise them when they're old. Proverbs 30:17, the eye that mocketh his father, and despiseth to obey his mother, I like this, the ravens of the valley shall pick it out, and the young eagles shall eat it. Your eyeballs are going to get eaten out by birds. That sounds kind of gross, doesn't it? It sounds like a pretty violent, rough ending. But let me tell you, a person who does not follow the influence of their mother, that's probably where they're heading. They're heading, and he's just trying to say, you're going to have an ugly, ugly end. You do yourself a service by making your mom happy. And moms, you go ahead and do your job. Be an influence. Use your influence. Try to make a difference. That is your job. If you have young children there at home, your word is law to those children according to the Bible. Don't follow what the rest of the world is doing. The rest of the world is failing miserably when it comes to raising kids. Fulfill your role that God gave you in the Bible. Follow the teachings of Proverbs chapter 31 and do what you can to make a difference. Kids, they need their moms today. And they need their moms to not just bring them into the world, but help them get through the world. And I hope you'll do that. So with that, let's all stand together right now.